Hi everyone, it's Sam Rathling here, and I am super excited to be here. Now, before I start, I just want to say a massive congratulations to Andrew and all of the hashtag team for such a phenomenal 10 years in business. What they do for small business owners and medium-sized business owners in this country is amazing, giving networking opportunities and chances for companies to come together, for exhibitors and sponsors to promote their businesses. And I just am so excited to be a part of the journey in this year and beyond. And thank you for having me as a speaker today, and of course, over the last couple of years too. Now, I am going to be bringing you today 10, yes, 10, because it's the 10-year anniversary, 10 ways for you to smash your goals on LinkedIn in 2026. Now, I've been on LinkedIn since 2005. So 21 years this year I will have been on this platform, but I've been teaching LinkedIn since 2010. So there are many, many people out there now. I think there were about maybe 5 people in the whole of the world when we're talking about LinkedIn when I started. But right now you could go to one of probably 100,000 people that will tell you things about how to build your personal brand or how to blow up on LinkedIn. I come at this with 20 years of selling to enterprise and corporate clients within LinkedIn. I started out as a recruiter, and then in 2005, I moved countries and moved to the Republic of Ireland. And that is a country where everything is done on who you know. And I knew nobody. So I did 2 things. I went out networking to business events, which is a great strategy. And I also leveraged LinkedIn as well. I thought if I can find candidates and I can place people in jobs from LinkedIn, I wonder if I could use it also for business development. So this year, it will be 21 years since I've been doing that. So I hope to come to you today with the strategies that are going to actually work. Now, we know LinkedIn has been, doing all sorts of different things with the hundreds of algorithms that they have running. Of course, they are trying to run a particular narrative right now, which is, of course, for them to get more revenue. And they're making it harder and harder for us business owners to get traction. So what I'm going to share with you today is all about how you can actually still utilize LinkedIn to really convert new clients. And the topic of today's talk is all about the word conversion. So you might be on LinkedIn, you might have a profile, you might be a lurker in the background right now, or maybe you're a very active user, but you're just not actually getting results from LinkedIn. Today's going to be all about this idea of the word conversion. And luckily, the word conversion has 10 letters in it. So each one of the letters is going to represent a different tip as I walk you through each of those steps. So I have some slides prepared. So we're going to get started first with the first C, which is all about credibility. Now, credibility is critical if you want to get business from LinkedIn. There are many ways for you to build credibility on LinkedIn. First of those is to think about your LinkedIn profile. Now, before you even do anything on LinkedIn, before you outreach to anyone, before you post content, you've really got to know and understand who your exact target audience is. Because if you go to the platform and it's confusing for you and you're not quite sure who you're trying to reach, it will be confusing to the prospects that you're trying to sell to, believe me. So the first thing we need to do is really take a deep hard look and think, right, this year ahead, who is it specifically that I really want to target? So I have specifically 2 target audiences. One is established founders and entrepreneurs who are selling business to business and want to land more logos. So these are people that might be already doing coaching, speaking, training, mentoring, etc., but they want to land big logos like I have. I work with Brother, FedEx, Mastercard, Activision Blizzard, the Access Group. I work with many, many different clients, and lots of people are not selling to big Fortune 500 companies, but want to land those logos. So that's my first target market. My second one is large corporate and enterprise sales and marketing leaders. So I split my profile and my credibility building around those 2 avatars. So those are the 2 types of people that I target. My profile is set up to speak to both of those audiences, and my content is also set up to speak to both of those audiences too. Typically, when I write posts that are aimed at the corporates and enterprise clients, I make sure that they're also relevant for the established business owners too. Those are typically the 2 groups of people that pay me money. Everyone else just gets everything for free. And you'll at the end get access to tons of free resources, free training and everything else that you can be able to learn more about this. But when you look at your own profile, credibility building is absolutely key. So if I were to ask you to look at your LinkedIn profile right now, you can either do that on your tablet or your desktop or your mobile phone. Just go have a look at your profile, like open up your mobile and go to LinkedIn and have a look at your LinkedIn profile. Now, imagine that your dream client, yes, dream client, business changing. Oh my goodness, I'm kicking off this year with the best client I could possibly have landed. Imagine they're looking at your profile right now. What are they thinking? What are they feeling? Do they know exactly what it is that you can do for them based on your profile? Can they get into your marketing ecosystem from your profile? Can I go and join your email list? Can I go and sign up for your newsletter? Can I download something that will be super valuable and helpful to me? Can I get into your community? Are there any ways that you can help me directly from your profile? If the answer is no right now, then your profile is not doing its job for conversion. It's also not building credibility in the way you might want it to. There are lots of different ways to build credibility. The other thing is the keyword side of things. You've got to have your profile optimized, and we'll talk about that in terms of what that impacts. But credibility also comes from how you show up on the newsfeed, how you show up as an individual, how you support others, how you post content. But credibility is absolutely key if you want to get business from LinkedIn. Nobody is going to buy from you or convert if you're not credible. Next, we have the O. So the O, the first O, because there are two O's in the word conversion, is all about this idea of outbound. Now, there are two ways to get business from LinkedIn, inbound and outbound. They're the only two ways. So inbound are great. That's where someone's been following you for a while. You get an inbound message from someone saying, hey, John, I've been following your content for 6 months. I'd absolutely love to have a conversation. Your post the other day inspired me, and I now want to have a chat with you. That's an inbound lead. And those are great. You know, they come, they're much higher likely to close. They might have come inbound from someone recommending you or tagging you in a post. Those are amazing, right? But none of you can sit here today and tell me that you're going to get a certain number of inbound leads in the next year ahead. In fact, most of the conversations I'm having with businesses right now are they're saying my inbound leads have dried up. I'm not getting the same amount of inbound leads as I was. My content impressions are down, therefore my number of inbound leads is down. So you need to think about having, alongside your inbound strategy, you need to also have an outbound strategy. Inbound is reactive, it's unreliable, it's unpredictable. Outbound, however, is reliable, predictable, and you're in complete control of the outbound side of your business. You can invite up to 200 people a week on LinkedIn to connect with you. So that means you could invite 200 potential prospects to join your network every single week. And that means, 800 invites a month. That means if you've got a 50% acceptance rate, which should be your target, that's 400 new people in your network every single month for the year ahead. That's a lot of contacts, and you're handpicking them. These are people that you go out, you select them based on their geography, their industry sector, their job title, their everything about them that you're choosing because you know that they're perfect for your business, and you're putting them into your network. So how many of you right now, just type yes or no in the chat box, are maxing out your connections every single week on LinkedIn until you get the message that says, sorry, you've run out of invitations this week. You are not doing enough outbound right now. Now, you don't have to put a note with every single invite. I would have been saying do that about 3-4 years ago and prior. But because there is so much AI and automation right now, a lot of people assume that if you're sending it with a note, that they're automatically going to get pitched as soon as you accept the connection. So you'll actually get a better, higher acceptance rate if you do not send a note with that connection request. So make sure that you're maxing those out and have this outbound strategy. Now, I've just come through 2 years of a breast cancer battle, and I am out the other side of that now, thankfully. And I did talk about it on my LinkedIn now and again, not loads, but I did document the whole thing over on TikTok. And even in the depths of chemo, when I was in my worst state and my worst weeks, I still had this non-negotiable habit of outbound connecting and growing my network and building my network. So if I can do that in the depths of chemo, when I was hibernating each week for about 3 days, as in just sleeping for 3 days a week, you guys can definitely definitely get your outbound strategy up this year. So let's talk about the next one, which is closely linked to the outbound side of things, which is knowing your numbers. Now, we all need to know our numbers for our business. We all know our revenue targets. We all know our goals. We all know what we're trying to achieve. But specifically when it comes to your LinkedIn strategy, there are a number of things that you need to track and measure if you're going to understand the metrics of these numbers. Specifically when it comes to conversion, though, we need to know what are the numbers, how many leads do we need to generate in order to create a sales meeting? How many sales meetings do we need to have in order to convert somebody into a customer? And most people can't tell you these numbers. Quite often they know the numbers if it's a referral or if it's an inbound inquiry, if it's a bit more warmed up. A lot of people will say, oh yeah, I just need to get in front of someone and then I'll close the deal. But if it's a cold audience and if it's someone that doesn't have that know, like, and trust and that credibility built up, then it's going to be a bit harder for you to predict how many leads you're going to have. But you do need to know these numbers. So I'll give you an example. I send out to some of my sales leaders when I'm prospecting and doing outbound activity. I have a document called 44 prospecting tips for sales teams to get more business from LinkedIn. So I will connect with a chief revenue officer or a sales leader, and I will share with them some of the pain points that I know are experienced by sales leaders with their teams when it comes to LinkedIn. Quite often they're paying for Sales Navigator but getting no results. And what I'll do is I'll share that document with them through a link, and they have to give me their email address if they want to download this document. So I know that if I send 100 of those, that 10 of them will click on the link and download my 44 prospecting tips. So I know 100 turns into 10. Now, when I send the email to them, I also deliver the PDF for them so they've got it. But I say, if you'd like to book a one-to-one prospecting strategy call so that we can have a chat about your specific needs for your team, here's my link to book a call. And from every 10 who download the document, one of them books a meeting. So all I need to do is know my numbers. And if I want 10 corporate sales meetings, I need to push out 1,000 of those over the course of however many weeks that's going to take to get me 10 corporate sales meetings. Now, each one of those is going to be worth anything between 25,000 and 100,000 pounds. So of course I'm going to do the work for that. I get paid quite well in corporate. So I know that if I do that work, I'm going to land social selling programs for large companies. So do you know your numbers? I'll challenge you on that. That's something for you to think about going outside of this meeting is, do you actually know your numbers? Are you tracking your content analytics? Do you know the impact of your content on your profile views, your search appearances? How many people are clicking on the links in your profile, or how many people are downloading things? All of these things can be tracked. Now, I will give you a tracking sheet at the end of this. There'll be a QR code for you to actually go and get a tracking sheet from me and lots of other resources. But it is important that you know these numbers and you're tracking them on a week-to-week basis. The next part of this is going to be the V, which is visibility. Now, I mentioned visibility earlier, but you're not going to get business from LinkedIn unless you are visible. You need to be both visible and credible to land opportunities from LinkedIn. So are you right now one of these kind of what I call LinkedIn lurkers? So you have a profile kind of on the newsfeed a little bit, you watch what's going on, you might comment now and again, but ultimately you're behind the scenes a little bit and nobody really knows you're there. Because if you are invisible right now, and if you are a lurker, which by the way is about 95% of LinkedIn profiles, there's only 5% of people on the platform who actually post content consistently. So if you're invisible, there's no way you're going to get business from LinkedIn this year. So I would urge you, if you are a self-confessed lurker, to start coming out from the shadows a little bit. And that might start by just doing a little bit of commenting or a little bit of active engagement on the newsfeed. But primarily, this is about getting you posting consistently on the platform. Visibility also comes from having the right keywords on your LinkedIn profile. So having your keyword optimized to get you found. Now, LinkedIn profiles are now being used to drive Google searches. They're also being used to drive AI searches too. So your credibility and your visibility is going to come from you being visible. So make sure that your profile is really optimized for that. Imagine that your LinkedIn profile is a shop window. You need to make sure that your shop window is being found. Just like you would your website, you'll make sure that your website is set up for SEO. Your profile needs to be set up for SEO as well. So do you have all of your core specialities and your core keywords embedded into your LinkedIn profile? There are about 7 different places you can put your keywords in a very subtle way inside your LinkedIn profile to get you found more easily. I show up on the first pages of Google searches for Sales Navigator and LinkedIn, as well as on AI as well. So I get found, and I have that because of the visibility I have on my profile, which is driving that ability to get found elsewhere. You can be visible by commenting. You can be visible by being in groups. You can be visible by posting. You can be visible in many, many different ways, and particularly with your existing network and with new people as well. So visibility drives a lot of things on LinkedIn. So if you're invisible right now, I would urge you to become more visible. We'll talk a bit later about the types of ways you can do that, but I just want you to really kind of score yourself maybe and think, well, you know, how visible am I right now? Out of 10, how visible do you really think you are on the LinkedIn platform? Because if it's anything less than 5, then you have some work to do to get yourself visible. The good news is it doesn't take too long to do that. Now, one of the best ways to get visible is the next one, which is the E. And this is all about engagement. So engagement is to do with the likes, the comments, both on your post, but on other people's posts as well. And this is one of the most underutilized and underrated things you can be doing on LinkedIn, especially if you're not particularly feeling it when it comes to posting. Maybe you're just resharing and reposting other people's stuff right now. Maybe you're not ready to be an all-out LinkedIn poster or LinkedIn creator, which is fine. But start finding your voice by doing engagement. You know, we can post 3 to 5 to 7 maybe posts in a week on LinkedIn, but we can do 100 comments a day and get massively visible through this idea of engagement. Now, engagement is going to drive your visibility and your credibility. So we've already talked about the V and the C, but one of the best ways you can drive both of those things is through engagement. So when you post something, engagement is replying back to every single person that has commented underneath your post. Now, I'm not just talking about a very short, snappy reply. I'm talking about really considered, intentional replies, ideally with a minimum of 20 words. So instead of saying thanks, you would say, oh, thank you so much for your amazing comment. Quick question though, and then go into a question. And you can ask questions and tag people in the comments. You can really start discussions underneath a post. And that's what the algorithms are looking for you to do. There is not just one algorithm on LinkedIn. There are hundreds and hundreds of algorithms running 24/7, and we're all in different types of algorithms being tested all the time. So there's no way that you can game the algorithm at all because there isn't just one, and there's no way that anybody, even the people at LinkedIn, don't even know how to do that. So stop obsessing over the algorithms and just start doing things like this. Start engaging on your own posts, but when it comes to other people's posts, who are you engaging with? Is it just your mates that you met at a networking event? Is it just your main business contacts? Or are you engaging on the posts of people who could be ideal prospects for you? Now think about those ideal clients, those business changing clients. If we start adding a couple of 100 people a week into our networks, and let's say 100 a week accept, that's 400 new people in a month that you can go and engage with, but you've handpicked them, remember. You've chosen what industry they're in, what job titles they have, where they're based. All of these things are really, really key. And then it's about starting to engage with them and starting those conversations, because if you engage and comment under someone's post, the author gets notified that you've done that. So that helps to get visible with the author of a post. But if that post has already got 50 comments and maybe 130 reactions, everyone else that's already engaged with that post is going to know that you exist. So you start doing engagement and suddenly your profile views go up. More people know about you, you get more visible, especially if you comment in a way that is thinking about each piece of commenting almost as if it were an actual piece of content. So I'll give you an example. I have a client who posted recently about the fact that she was really frustrated about the algorithms and what they're doing at the moment. So I went underneath the post and I wrote about 3 or 4 paragraphs of my perspective on how it actually has nothing to do quite often with the algorithms, and we shouldn't be blaming the algorithms. Instead, we should be looking in the mirror and we should be thinking, well, is it because my content's boring? Is it because I'm not really putting that much effort into my content? So I did a whole post about that. It wasn't a post, it was a comment, but it was like a post. And I had 21,000 impressions, something like that, on my one comment. So quite often you can get more impressions on a comment than you can on a post. But more importantly, 4 people that saw my comment then sent me a message and became leads in my pipeline because I had intelligently and smartly commented underneath a post where I could demonstrate my expertise. So engagement is a really, really key part of 2026. If you don't have a commenting strategy right now, you definitely need to get one. So I'd say a minimum 10, but ideally 20, 25 comments a day. If you can do that, I was talking to a client the other day, and he's like, oh, I can get that done when my wife's watching Coronation Street. There are lots of different ways where you can find that time. Imagine, you're sitting on a Zoom call and someone's 2 minutes late. Just grab your phone, go and have a look on the newsfeed, see who you can comment back on. It's a bit easier when it comes to this with Sales Navigator, which is a paid version of LinkedIn. You can even see every single post of every single prospect in one place with no algorithm over on Sales Nav. So engagement intentionally is much easier over there, but I would still be looking for some key people to engage with. Now, the R is back to this credibility idea. Now, the R is to do with recommendations, and we're back to talking about profiles again, but ultimately recommendations are like Amazon reviews. We don't go to Amazon and buy a product. We go to Amazon and we buy the reviews. That's what we do. We look and we see, oh yeah, it's got 4.8 reviews, but we'll go and have a look at those 1-star reviews, or we'll ignore all the products that have a score less than 4. Now, when was the last time you were recommended? Was it 2016 or was it last week? You can go to my LinkedIn profile. I have over 305 recommendations on my profile, and the last one was from a few days ago, and the last one before that was a couple of weeks ago, and the last one before that was last month. So are your recommendations quality? Are they recent? And are they in volume? Because if you're the most recommended version of you on LinkedIn, you'll win more clients. I win business just on the sheer amount of recommendations that I have. It is social proof that I'm actually all right at what I do. So when I write a sales proposal for a client, I can pick from over 300 written recommendations. I can screenshot them and put them into my sales decks. I can share them with clients. I can point clients to the right testimonials based on their industry sector. So recommendations are really, really key. I've given 4 recommendations in the last week. One of them, in fact, was to Andrew, and one of them was to Stephen, who is our MC for the hashtag events. So if you want to go and see how I recommend people, go over to Andrew's profile, go over to Stephen's profile. You'll see their LinkedIn recommendations from me. But also, when you give a recommendation, your brand is now on those people's profiles forever. You never know who's going to read that recommendation. It could be that someone visits Andrew's profile and they see my LinkedIn recommendation and they see that I'm a LinkedIn expert, and they might book me to speak at their event, for example. That's not the reason I wrote them, obviously. I wrote them because they're amazing people. But the point here is, if you're not giving recommendations and not receiving recommendations, you're missing a huge, huge part of the LinkedIn process. So I'd like you to write down the names of 2 people right now. You think, oh yeah, I know this person, I know their character, I've worked with them, I'd love to give them a recommendation. How many of you have been to the hashtag events and have not given Stephen or Andrew a recommendation? They could be one of the people on your list. Who can you give a recommendation to? You simply go to their profile, and at the very top, underneath the header image, just under their name, you'll see a button that says more, and in there you can either request a recommendation or give a recommendation. LinkedIn wants to know the relationship. So were you clients of each other? Did you work at different organizations? And then it will ask you to provide the recommendation based on the job title in their profile that you can recommend them for. So yeah, if you're not recommending people, missing a visibility opportunity. If you're not getting recommended yourself, you're missing a huge visibility and credibility opportunity too. So I would highly encourage you to think about 2 people you can recommend, but also 2 people you can ask to give you a recommendation. If you have people who are in your CRM system, and maybe you, I don't know, last year or maybe a year ago, you had a proposal out with them and you didn't win the business or you never heard from them again, they ghosted you or whatever. A really, really good way to get back in touch with people that you've lost contact with is to just out of the blue recommend them. It's a nice thing to do. It's a great Friday afternoon job. It makes you feel good because you're giving. And when we give, we get everything we want in return. And recommendations are a great way to give. We're almost there, guys. Type yes in the chat box if you are getting lots and lots of ideas from this presentation, or give me some reactions if you are enjoying things so far. So I want to make sure that you're still paying attention because we have 4 more things to go before we finish up here. So the next one I want to talk about is an S. Now, obviously, you can see there a little doggy in there. So I'm going to share with you. This is Zaya. She is our puppy, and she is adorable. But as any of you will know, if any of you have ever had a dog or a young dog, they need systems and they need training. So the 2 things that you might need some help with this year is systemizing all of this stuff that you need and really putting in place a social selling system to help you turn LinkedIn into a lead generation machine, but also training as well. Now, at the end, I'm going to give you a link to get some free training and free resources from me. But in terms of this social selling system, I'm just going to share a story about a client of mine that I've worked with for the last 8 years. They run mastermind business success groups down in the South, and I work with them on 2 of their profiles. So there are business partners, and each of them have their own LinkedIn profiles. At this point between them, I think they have something like 42,000 connections between both profiles. And they have been running a specific system for lead generation on LinkedIn for the last 8 years that, despite all the algorithm changes, is still working. And one of those systems is to be running events on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn does give you an opportunity now to promote events, webinars, online events, offline events, etc. And one of the things they do is every single month they run a free masterclass on how to get your business to 100K. That is the only thing they talk about in their content, is the only thing they talk about in their profiles, and their only target market is smaller businesses who are looking to get to their first 6 figures. So that is their very clear prospect. That's their very clear target market within 100 miles of where they operate from, because they do a lot of face-to-face events. And they have a system in place where every single month they run a webinar, they invite people from LinkedIn, they do their webinar, and they book about 20 sales meetings every single month, sometimes 30, but 20 to 30 sales meetings from every single masterclass. Both profiles are set up to talk to the right target market. Both profiles are maxing out connections every week. Both profiles are inviting 1,000 people a week to their masterclasses, because you can on LinkedIn. And both profiles are always talking about the kinds of pain points that those people really come up against. They're hugely credible. They've got lots of recommendations. Everybody loves them. They're massively into community. And this business is driven by a LinkedIn lead generation system. And I've been helping them to do that over the last 8 years. Even when the algorithms do things, when LinkedIn changes things, you know, the fundamentals don't change. The platform will always change, but the fundamentals, when you have a social selling system in place and you have the right methodology in place, never ever change. So systems are really, really key. So what I encourage you to think about is not just being sporadic this year, like, you know, oh, just going to do a bit here, a bit there. If you're just kind of floating in and out, doing bits and pieces, you don't really have a strategy in place, then you are going to definitely not be landing as much business from LinkedIn and converting as much business as you might do that. Another example of a system might be, well, you want to build your email list this year. So I was on a masterclass the other day with Lara Acosta. Lara is one of the most recognized names on LinkedIn. Had a private masterclass with her the other day with about 19 people. And her and quite a few of her well-known creative friends are using LinkedIn essentially to build their offline email list. And she's shared most of her business comes from her email list, not from LinkedIn directly, but LinkedIn is the system that drives people to the list. So you can build a phenomenally successful newsletter or a phenomenally successful email list that then takes people from the online, so they're on LinkedIn, they download something or they get onto a list or they join an event, they then become on your email list and you use the email list to market to those people. So the key here is online to offline. How are you systemizing getting customers or prospects from LinkedIn, out of LinkedIn, into your own ecosystem. Because if you're not doing that, you're going to be missing opportunities to convert those people into clients. So systems are absolutely key. One of my favorite ones next to talk about is the word influence. So as you build your network on LinkedIn, you are building what I call your circle of influence. Now, if you've only got a few connections right now, that's okay. But in fact, right now, LinkedIn is actually prioritizing smaller accounts. One of my best friends in the world, Lucy Glennie, she comes to a lot of the hashtag events. So if you've ever been at a stand with me at hashtag, you might have met Lucinda Glennie. I'll give you an example of Lucy. So Lucy has only been on LinkedIn since July, or I think she's only been active since July. She might have set up her account ages ago, but she really last year, kind of because she knows me and she was starting her own business, she was like, okay, I'm going to try this LinkedIn thing. Now, Lucy, nobody really knew who she was. She had about 500 connections. And Lucy, I always tell people when they're on LinkedIn, don't just be the professional version of yourself. So Lucy's an event VA. She helps people who are running events, going to trade shows, etc. She does the before, during, and after of the setup, and she attends events. She's brilliant at talking to people. But Lucy didn't have any influence on LinkedIn. She had such a small account. Nobody really knew who she was. But back in October last year, Lucy decided that she wanted to raise some awareness for a topic that's very close to her heart. 3 years ago, she was in a very violent relationship and she wanted to raise awareness for domestic violence. She is now out of that relationship, thankfully, and it's 3 years ago, but she did decide during the month of October last year that she wanted to post about her experience as a survivor. So she wrote a post on LinkedIn and didn't think anything of it. She just posted it. She's got 500 connections. She thought it might get about 20 likes. Now, this post blew up and she had 120,000 impressions on a 500-person account. So 120,000 impressions from a very small 500-person connections network. Now, she has quadrupled that network just in the last couple of months because she is growing her influence. But one of the things that I recommend is that, you know, if you want to raise awareness about something, if you want to influence change, you know, it's very possible to do that within LinkedIn. She is now being invited to speak in Parliament this year in October. She is going to be on a Netflix documentary. She's been invited into podcasts all over the world. She's got charities wanting to help her. She's working with Lincolnshire Police, all because she started to talk about a topic she cares about. And her influence now in this sector, inside domestic violence and inside domestic violence awareness, is huge because she started to talk about a topic she cares about. So she is gradually growing her influence inside this space. And she's getting more and more and more opportunities because she got visible. And now she's significantly credible in this space because of how she's grown her influence. Now, I always say to people, when you do have a small amount of connections or you don't have a massive brand right now, you know, one of the best things you can be doing is actually getting out there and driving up your influence by borrowing other people's audiences. The fact that now Lucy's being talked to by very high profile people all over the world on this topic is driving up her influence. I remember when I first started back in 2010, like nobody was talking about LinkedIn, but I knew that there were a few podcasts that I needed to get on to drive up my influence. I targeted people specifically that had some of the top marketing podcasts in the world, and I got friendly and made friends, turned strangers into friends, which is a really good tip for LinkedIn, by the way, with people that I knew had more influence than me in the marketing world, but they weren't talking about LinkedIn. So how can you find people and build your circle of influence so that you can do collaborations and partnerships with people that will drive up your influence? It was one of the other things that Lara talked about too, was the power of collaborations. You know, she's gone from nothing to 300,000 followers since 2023, all by these collaborations. So think about how you can really drive up your influence. Who could you partner with? Who could you collaborate with? Who do you need to get to know to drive up your influence? If you don't have a brand right now, borrow other people's. Get out there, speak for free, go on other people's podcasts, be a guest, whatever you need to do to drive up your influence, do that, and then make sure you talk about it on the LinkedIn platform. The final O is very linked to the first O. It's all to do with outreach. Once you have connected with those people, you do need to make sure you're starting DMs. and starting conversations. So have those direct conversations with people. This is a very specific topic that I could speak about for maybe 3 hours, but most people get this wrong. They do it in a very salesy way, and they don't do outreach right at all. Some people send me their messages and they go, oh, my outreach isn't working, and they send it through to me, and I'm like, I am not surprised. You know, if you think about your outreach and what you're sending to people, if you were on the receiving end of that, would you reply to you? Most of the time, people's outreach is awful. It's all about them. It's not about the potential prospect. You want to make sure that your outreach is hyper personalized. You know, really take the time to look at someone's profile, look at what they've been up to recently, look at their recent posts. You know, if you can demonstrate that you are not a robot and that you're not an AI tool sending them a DM, like, outreach can absolutely work. But start by giving value first. If you've got a free event, invite them to a free event. That's a way to give to them. If you have got a free event they can attend, that's a great way for you to you know, as in a face-to-face event. If you've got a free networking event, that's a great give. If you've got something you can send them that's going to help them and make their life better, that's a great give. If you've got a book you want to send them, that's a great give. There are lots of ways for you to do outreach that doesn't start with a sales pitch. Nobody is going to go from we just connected to now I'm going to buy from you. This is not going to happen. It takes 5 to 12 touch points at least for somebody to even consider having a conversation with you. Your LinkedIn content is going to do its job to help them to get to know, like, and trust you, but nobody is going to go from we're connected to now I'm going to buy from you. That's just not going to happen. So you really have to think about your outreach. So all those new people that are connecting with you, yes, absolutely, you should be doing outreach with them. And I highly recommend you're doing outreach with your existing connections too. You know, you probably got 100, maybe 500 people that you know personally that you've maybe met over the number of years you've been in business, but you haven't actually done outreach recently to reconnect with them. This ultimately is all about building relationships. And people forget that LinkedIn is a professional networking platform. It's not post and ghost or post and pitch. It is a place where we can build professional networking relationships, just like we do at hashtag events. You know, outreach is about building relationships and human to human connection. So don't forget that when you're doing it. And finally, we're going to talk last about the power of nurturing these relationships. So nurture is all about the posting and the content. You know, you need to be posting well on LinkedIn. You need to be building your brand in a way that, you know, you're showing up not just as the professional version of you, but also the real human that is you. So every aspect of what you talk about. I met a salesperson called John who works in the print industry at one of the recent events in Birmingham. And I think it was Birmingham, might have been Leicestershire. I go to a lot of them. So I met John and I talked about this at one of the hashtag events. And I talked about the power of sharing personal stories and not just showing up as the work version of you. And I found out that John has ADHD, as do I, and we had a connection around that. And he shared a post on LinkedIn about the fact that he, for the first time ever, was going onto medication to help him with this particular challenge that, you know, is a superpower in my mind. And I know he believes it's a superpower too, but it is very challenging. If you have ADHD and neurodivergence of any kind, it can be particularly troubling to like focus and get things done. So he posted on LinkedIn about his first, he had a picture of his hand, his first medication he was taking for ADHD. And the post absolutely went viral. It blew up, literally blew up. So although you can talk about work stuff, you also want to be talking about personal stuff too. I'll share a personal story shortly that kind of demonstrates that, but don't just be boring. Don't just be bland and boring. Honestly, you need to think about, like, how am I going to nurture these prospects? If you are into health and fitness, or you care passionately about mental health, or you champion a particular charity or volunteering organization, or you want to talk about being a single mom or being a single dad, or challenging things around anything, literally anything. You want to motivate, you want to inspire. There are many, many different parts of you that make you a human being. And being vulnerable and being authentic is one of the best ways that you can nurture these prospects. Quite often someone might be following you and they may be considering, like, oh, maybe this is someone, a good person I might want to talk to in the future. But then you post about something that really connects you with that person. This is how you're going to nurture those prospects. Content is what nurtures those relationships. Imagine that every single post you put on the newsfeed is like planting a little seed, which is why I have a picture of a fantastic meadow here. But every single piece of content you post is like a little seed planted in their mind as to why you are a good person to be connecting with. So definitely nurture. And on the subject of personal posts, before I finish up, I just have one story I want to share with you, because the other way that N stands for is the next generation. And right now, the next generation is the #1 fastest growing sector on LinkedIn. So Gen Z and is the kind of fastest growing LinkedIn category right now. On screen right now is my son, Oscar. It's a couple of pictures. This old picture is about a year old at this point. And Oscar is very passionate about bringing the next generation to LinkedIn. But I'll share a story with you to finish off here about the power of sharing a personal story. So one of the best things you can do when it comes to your content is to think about the hook. So the thing that draws people into your post when you post about it. Now, I was last October, so not this October, the one before. So about, a year and a bit ago, I was doing a presentation and I'd got onto a Saturday morning and I was like, what am I going to post about? Because even LinkedIn experts, we do struggle with what to post sometimes. And it was a Saturday morning, and this is Oscar going off to an interview. He's an entrepreneur. And I was thinking, I'm actually really proud of Oscar at the moment. So I decided to do a post on a Saturday morning. He was upstairs in his bed, as teenagers are quite often on Saturday mornings. And I decided to write a post. And the hook on this particular post was the thing that made the difference as to how it performed. So here we are. The post started with, "Troublemaker, disruptive, said the teachers. Go hang yourself in your garage, said the kids." Oscar was abused and bullied in school in year 8, and he had 9 months of bullying to get through. He has Asperger's, ADHD, ODD. And I did a post about how proud I am of him, because he's investing in his future. He's got some great mentors. He's got vision boards on he's got his goals. He's upskilling himself in many different ways. And this post literally blew up. At the time of taking this photo, it was at 177,000 impressions. And I was like, oh no, I don't know whether Oscar's going to be happy about this or not. So he comes down from his bedroom and I'm like, Oscar, I kind of did a thing. And he's like, what have you done, Mum? I was like, I kind of did a post about you on LinkedIn and it's kind of gone a bit viral. And he was like, what? Take it down, take it down. I don't want people to know about my being bullied. That's my personal brand, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hang on a second. I was like, do you want to know what's happened since I posted this a couple of hours ago? And he was like, yeah, Mum, tell me. So I basically had my inbox flooded with people sharing that they really resonated with this story. I had a message from the startup business manager at Google. And she said, Oscar really reminds me of me and my brother. We went through exactly the same thing that he did. We'd love to invite Oscar in for a couple of days of AI training with Google at our headquarters. And I told Oscar that he had that comment. And he was like, what? Google want to give me free training? I was like, yeah, they want to bring you in to like meet all of their developers and they want to train you. And he's like, oh my God, that's amazing. I was like, do you still want me to take the post down? He's like, no, Mom, keep it up. So the next thing that happened, somebody reached out to me from Ernst & Young, and he got offered Oscar mentoring. He said, I work with all the chief data officers for AI all over the world in the top Fortune 500 companies, and we'd love to mentor Oscar. He was like, what? This is amazing, Mom. And the last thing that happened, in fact, there were about 15 other things that happened, but I think Oscar right now is the only person in the world to ever have this happen to him on LinkedIn. But the next thing that happened is that Oscar got gifted a car by a total stranger. So this lady, amazing lady, Paula, she's a police officer in the northeast of England. And she contacted me and said, Oscar reminds me of my son, Harry. And I'd love to invite Oscar up and you and Oscar to come and see us. And we have a car that we'd love to give him. Harry was about to get his new car, and this car belonged to her best friend who unfortunately passed away. And she wanted to make sure it went to a good home. So this is Taz, Oscar's new car. And Taz is amazing. And Taz has even got a gear stick that is a samurai sword. And it's very cool. So we went up there. It took us 5 hours to get them on the train. But when I got there, Paula was like, you cannot tell anyone where we are right now. She said, it's really important that you don't reveal the address or the location on any posts, etc. Just say the Northeast. And I said to her, well, why is that? And she said, well, I'm going to bring you into the house, but this is actually a domestic violence refuge for men. and it's the first of its kind in the Northeast, and it's a project I'm working on. It's a passion project for me, and but we can't, obviously, because of safety reasons, you can't reveal where you are. So we went around, she gave us the tour of this amazing facility, and she said, it's not finished yet, though, I've run out of money. And I was like, Paula, let me give you some money for the car. And she would not take any money for the car. So she said, what I really need is 8 fire doors. And that's the only thing that I'm missing. I need to pay for the fire doors and get them fitted, and then the whole thing can launch and more men can come and stay here. So me and Oscar were in Taz on the way home, and I said to Oscar, how can we help Paula? What do you think we should do? And he said, Mum, we're going to take it to LinkedIn. So 3 months later, this is Paula posting about the doors that she got as a result of Oscar's story, the ripple effect of me sharing Oscar's story, Oscar then being given the car, and then us going to LinkedIn to ask for help to pay it forward. So this is the power of LinkedIn. This is the power of personal posts. This is the power of, leveraging professional networks, and LinkedIn is amazing. So I hope you've been inspired in some way, shape, or form. And I hope you've been inspired to really focus on this idea of conversion in the months and years ahead, because LinkedIn is a phenomenal platform. And I know that every single one of you can go out there and apply many of the tips that I've shared today to help you get more business from LinkedIn in the year ahead. So I just wanted to share one more story before we finish up, specifically from hashtag. Gavin listened to my presentation, exactly this presentation, back in July last year, and is, as a result of just applying what's in here and being a part of my free community, Gavin has closed a significant amount of business with £300,000 in his pipeline, essentially. Some of it has closed, some of it's about to close, but a big shout out to Gavin, because he just listened to a presentation that I gave at a hashtag event, just like the one you've heard, and he went and took action. Nothing is going to happen unless you take action on the stuff I've shared in this presentation. It's really, really important that you do that. If you do want to have additional training beyond today and you want to learn from me more, there's a QR code on the screen right now for you to be able to access my free community. I have a free community over on the school platform, which is SKOOL. So you do need to set up an account, but you can, it's very quick to do. You can click on that QR code. In there, you'll find free resources, the tracking guide I talked about, a free download of my book, about 40 to 50 training videos on LinkedIn and social selling, and a network of people for you to connect with as well. So I want to say a massive thank you for having me today. It's been absolutely incredible to be here. I hope you've learned something, and now we'll head over to Q&A.